I have a romance with him when I'm doing my show. We have hit it off pretty good.
Rodney Dangerfield made the world laugh with his legendary no-respect jokes. But behind that iconic punchline was a life far heavier than most people ever imagined. His story wasn't just about comedy, it was about survival. From a painfully cold childhood to a chaotic marriage and a decades-long dependence on cannabis, Rodney's life was a constant battle between darkness and laughter. This is the real story behind the man who turned pain into punchlines. Rodney Dangerfield was born Jacob Cohen in Babylon, New York. Long before the fame, before the suits and stage lights, he was just a boy growing up in a home that lacked something essential: love. His father, Philip Cohen, was a vaudeville performer who went by the name Phil Roy. He was almost always on the road, chasing gigs, leaving little Rodney without a consistent father figure. Eventually, his father disappeared from his life entirely. That absence left a lasting scar. To Rodney, show business wasn't glamorous, it was the thing that took his father away. If his father was physically absent, his mother was emotionally unavailable. Rodney later described her as distant and cold. There were no birthday gifts, no hugs, no encouragement. In one painful memory, he recalled saving money for a football uniform only for his mother to take it. Moments like that shaped his sense of self-worth. After his father left for good, the family moved to Queens. The home was quiet, but not peaceful, just emotionally empty. Rodney and his sister grew up in isolation, surrounded by silence and distance. That environment planted the seeds of loneliness that would follow him for life. By the age of 15, Rodney found an escape: comedy. While other kids played outside, he stayed in, writing jokes. Humor became his shield. If he could make people laugh, maybe he wouldn't feel the pain as deeply. It was his way of building emotional armor. After high school in 1939, he tried to reinvent himself. At 19, he changed his name to Jack Roy and chased a career in entertainment. But success didn't come easily. He worked as a singing waiter, juggling trays while trying to entertain customers. It was exhausting and often humiliating. He hadn't yet found the voice that would make him famous. He was just another struggling performer in a crowded field. By 1949, he hit a breaking point. He wasn't earning enough, and the dream felt out of reach. So he walked away from show business entirely. For years, Jack Roy lived a different life. He drove trucks and sold aluminum siding. Surprisingly, he thrived. He became one of the top salesmen in his field, proving he wasn't just a funny man, he was disciplined, hardworking, and determined. But during this time, he also picked up a habit that would follow him for the rest of his life. In 1942, he began using cannabis. What started as a coping mechanism became a daily routine, one that lasted nearly 60 years. For Rodney, it wasn't about recreation. It was about managing the anxiety and sadness that never left him. In 1949, he married Joyce Indig, a singer who understood the entertainment world. Together, they decided to leave show business behind and pursue a normal life. They moved to New Jersey, hoping for stability and happiness. But their relationship was anything but peaceful. Their marriage was filled with tension and constant arguments. They divorced in 1962 after 13 years together, only to remarry a year later. The cycle continued until their final divorce in 1970. They couldn't live together, but they couldn't stay apart either. Their home became a battleground. The frustration, resentment, and emotional strain seeped into Rodney's comedy. His jokes about marriage weren't just jokes, they were reflections of real pain. Despite the chaos, they had 2 children, Brian and Melanie. Rodney took fatherhood seriously. After Joyce's passing, he raised them as a single father, balancing his responsibilities with a career that was slowly rebuilding. In his 40s, Rodney made a bold decision: he returned to comedy. This time, he didn't just perform. He perfected. Rodney treated jokes like puzzles. He carried a pen and paper everywhere, capturing ideas instantly. Then he refined them word by word, pause by pause, until they were razor sharp. He believed shorter jokes hit harder. Every line had to land. Even with new topics, he was strategic. When Viagra became popular in the late 1990s, he didn't rush into jokes. He studied its popularity first, making sure audiences would understand. Once ready, he wrote the joke and rushed to perform it on TV before anyone else could. On stage, his physical style, tugging his tie, sweating, wide-eyed expressions, wasn't just an act. It reflected real anxiety. He was genuinely nervous, even at the height of his fame. That authenticity made his character believable. He didn't just look like a man who got no respect, he felt like one. By 1969, Rodney had gained enough recognition to open his own club in New York City, Dangerfield's. It became one of the most famous comedy venues in the world. But it wasn't just about him. Rodney used the club to help others. He gave opportunities to rising comedians who didn't fit the mainstream mold. Many future stars got their start on his stage. He wasn't bitter about his long struggle, he was generous. Even when he became wealthy, he never stopped working. He wasn't chasing money. He loved the craft. Late nights, small clubs, testing new jokes, he stayed dedicated well into his 80s. In 1983, Rodney's life took a softer turn. He met Joan Child in a flower shop in Santa Monica. She was 30 years younger, calm, grounded, and completely different from the chaos he'd known. They married in 1993. Joan brought stability into his life. She didn't drink, lived simply, and focused on his well-being. For the first time, Rodney had a peaceful home. She also helped him step into the future. In 1995, she helped him launch a personal website, making him one of the first celebrities to embrace the internet. It allowed him to connect directly with fans in a new way. Their relationship even inspired his work. His film My Five Wives drew from their cultural differences and shared experiences. Joan wasn't just his partner, she was his anchor. But even with success and love, Rodney struggled internally. He lived in what many called a persona trap. On stage and off, he remained Rodney Dangerfield. He rarely dropped the act, even in interviews. He feared that if he stopped being funny, people would lose interest. That fear came from his childhood. The applause from audiences became a substitute for the love he never received. Laughter made him feel valued. But deep down, he still believed he was the unloved boy from New York. That belief never fully went away. Behind the jokes was a man battling depression for most of his life. He kept it hidden for decades. It wasn't until his autobiography that he revealed the depth of his struggle. Cannabis became his coping mechanism. While therapy helped him emotionally, he relied on cannabis to manage physical anxiety. He believed he couldn't function without it. This caused issues, especially in hospitals, where he insisted on using it despite strict rules. To him, it wasn't optional, it was necessary. In 2004, his health began to decline. After heart valve surgery, complications followed. He suffered strokes and infections. Eventually, he fell into a coma at UCLA Medical Center. Joan stayed by his side every day. Then came a moment she would never forget. Rodney briefly woke up, looked at her, squeezed her hand, and kissed her before slipping back into unconsciousness. It was his final goodbye. On October 5, 2004, Rodney Dangerfield passed away at 82. The world lost a comedy legend. But those close to him lost something deeper, a complex, hard-working, deeply human man. Even in death, Rodney's legacy carried unique touches. Joan kept a small bottle of his sweat, a symbol of his relentless work ethic. To her, it represented everything he gave to make people laugh. Rodney's final years showed his determination. In 2001, on his birthday, he suffered a heart attack while scheduled to perform. A year later, he returned to the same stage, proving he still had it. But his body eventually gave out. When asked about regrets, Rodney had only one: he wished he had found success sooner. Not for fame, but for more time on stage. Because for Rodney Dangerfield, laughter wasn't just a career. It was survival. If you enjoyed this story and want more deep dives into the lives behind the spotlight, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Prestige Buzz, and hit the bell notification so you never miss an update. And tell us in the comments, what's your favorite Rodney Dangerfield joke?